Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Association Rockstars, where we hear about the journey and insights of some amazing association executives and partners who are building the association industry of tomorrow. My name is Lowell Aplebaum. I'm the CEO of Vista, Cova, where we partner with organizations on facilitation, strategy, and governance. It's my pleasure to have with me today Natasha Bethea Goodwin, MS CAE. Natasha is the Senior Director of Marketing and Membership at the Information Technology Industry Council, where she sets the direction for ITI's brand awareness and membership activities. She's on a mission to assist young professionals in embracing their greatness by unlocking their sense of competence, confidence, and value in the workplace. Natasha's current career accomplishments include being selected as a 2018 40 Under 40 Award recipient by Association Forum, as well as a 2019 ASAE Diversity Executive Leadership Program Scholar. Natasha, welcome.
Thank you, Lowell. I'm so glad to be here. And I want to thank you because I'm so honored to be considered an association rock star.
Well, honor nothing, you are one. If you are not following Natasha on many social media platforms, what I'll say is that not only is her work in the association world and for her organizations impressive, I love watching how she speaks to, I mean, I think it's not just young professionals. I think it's a variety of audiences, right? About personal truths and about like very real and like how there's healthier ways to live life and going to get it. And I can't wait to hear about like where you get inspiration for all of that. But I have to ask our usual opening question because on the occasion when my kids see that there's, you know, this type of series on a podcast, they always are interested in the first question, which is each of us bring to the table strengths. And so I would love to hear from you if you have a superpower, right? Somewhere that you bring extreme strength. What is the superpower that is Natasha?
So I would say I am a networking legend. So I love having the opportunity to meet new people, start new conversations. Lowell, I feel like we met through a networking opportunity. You usually host a lot of association professionals at the Nats game, and I came to one and met so many great people, including yourself. So it's always a great opportunity for me to learn, to grow, and just to connect with other people. So I do have an actual superhero name, and that's Networking Natasha.
Networking Natasha, I like it. So networking Natasha, I think that there's many people that find like worth and value and deep relationships because of what associations offer. I'm wondering when you walk into a room and where you come to an event where you don't know as many people, as someone who's a networking guru, like how do you approach new situations where perhaps you don't yet have the depth of, colleagues and friendships, and you're walking in with some new faces there?
Well, I love actually putting myself in uncomfortable situations. I think from there you can really grow and thrive in your career when you do that. But I always make a goal. When I walk into a room, I'm going to meet at least 5 people. And it's not always, just talking about work and what I do, but really letting people kind of dive into who I am and some of my interests. So I'm just very, open about who I am. And I just love connecting with people, but it's always a goal of mine. And even when I'm talking to other young professionals, like I really push them to do the same because you never know who you can meet. So it's just always important to make sure you're networking and putting yourself out there. So when you're not in the room, people can speak highly of you because they know who you are.
Well, you are always warm and welcoming. I remember the first baseball game you came to in the brewery beforehand. You do so well just hopping, right? From people to people and easily fit. Do you think in your approach, I mean, let's first look at an organizational level, our associations are built to associate, right? Like should be part and parcel of who they are. Do you have any perspectives on how associations could better enable networking success for individuals? Is there any structures you wish you saw associations do that would help individuals make closer relationships?
I think the really powerful thing that associations do to bring people together is through volunteer opportunities. So I've served on a few different committees throughout ASAE and in some other organizations where I got to actually meet new people, and we all kind of work towards a common goal. And just through that process, we learned about each other, how we can support each other, not just in this opportunity, but just going through the future of our career. So I think just focused on volunteer opportunities and just, getting your members mobilized through collective efforts.
I love your goal of meeting 5 new people or meeting 5 people every time you go in. And I've seen a few successful organizations that make that sort of goal explicit, right? When you, in the room, we want you to meet 2 to 3 people, and inviting participants to adopt, if you will, the same philosophy you inherently bring as one of your super strengths. Have you always been sort of I don't want to assume that you're an extrovert, but like, right, loving the uncomfortable situations, like, and going in and being hopefully like present and to open to new relationships. Is that always something that's been part of your personal makeup, or is that something that developed?
Absolutely not. When I was younger, I was super shy, believe it or not. My mom always had to make me like speak to people because I would just shy away. I'm like, no, I'm just nervous of that.
It is hard to believe.
I think just maybe probably about like 2 to 3 years into my career, I've learned that I just need to kind of step outside of my comfort zone and allow people to get to know me. And I always kind of believe it's not always what you know, but who you know.
Yeah.
So you might not be the smartest one in the room, but if everybody knows you, they can tell you about opportunity, about, some good news or something. So it's just something that grew and developed over time. And I've had a lot of mentors that kind of helped bring that out of me. And then my dad has played a major role in that because he's just very outgoing. So I kind of strive to that as well too, but it's definitely something that takes work, takes practice. But I think everyone can kind of bring that out of themselves.
Did you start your career in the association world, or where did you start and how'd you find your way in?
So right after college, I started working at a direct marketing firm, and we did fundraising. A lot of our clients were associations. So I just spent a few years doing that. And then I got to the point of actually, I want to see what it's like to be on the client side and actually work at an association. And my first association job was at the American Nurses Association. And that pretty much opened me up to this whole association world. This is where I started getting involved in ASAE, meeting other association executives and realizing, wait, this is a career that I can grow into.
You mentioned how mentors along the way have sort of helped to guide. And I know that you're also a DELF scholar, and that's part of the program. How have you gone about finding mentors, and how do you sort of fine tune or right size the relationship with a mentor for the growth that you need?
Yeah, so I use my networking skills just organically to kind of point out people, and I do research on people too. So I'll go on LinkedIn and look them up and just, see if they had a similar career path that I'm trying to move towards, and I'll reach out. It was kind of easier before the pandemic when more things were in person because I knew I would see these people in person, whether it be at a conference or an event. But during the pandemic, I just had to kind of reach out to people on LinkedIn. And, even just using my connections. Hey, I know, so-and-so, can you put me in contact with this person? That's been very helpful. But of course, I can't say enough about the DELP community. They have been very supportive in helping me build my confidence and really just know my value. And
Yeah.
we're a family. And I always, try to take that same energy when I interact with folks outside of DELP as well, because I have a lot of people that I mentor as well. So it's just very kind of important me building those connections, and that family within DELP is top notch.
The frame you just gave that you mentor others as well. As I've watched posts on social media, I actually feel like that's exactly what you're doing, right? your posts of direction or inspiration feel exactly often with what a mentor would say to a mentee in terms of like giving instruction. Can you talk a little bit about how you're utilizing those platforms to like bring truth, knowledge, like path, like what's your intention there, and what do you find rewarding about it?
Yeah, so for those that don't know, I manage about like 7 social media accounts, but I'm going to talk about one right now. I have a social media account called Professionally Brilliant. So I'm on TikTok and I'm also on Instagram. And it was just pretty much a passion project for me, to be able to kind of talk about my experiences that I've been through navigating my career, give advice, and just kind of reach more people. And I know through social media, you can do that. So I create reels, videos, tips, everything about career and what we go through. And it's growing, and I get so excited every time I can put videos together and put content out there, because I feel like it's also my second job as well, because it does
Yeah.
take a lot of work doing it. But I just know by doing this, I'm making a difference, and that's really important for me.
There, I feel like there's an intersect the question with Professionally Brilliant or any of the other more than a handful of sites, as well as just your discussion of your strength in networking. We're coming out of this time where, as you referenced, like we were all isolated, like we were, as we met right through networking opportunity. And it was really hard for those who enjoy being with other people to be in this isolated space. I'd love to hear in terms of like how during that time of like home isolation, was there any like new skill sets or approaches that you used to still form those networking relationships? Is that when Professionally Brilliant like started to come about? Was like during that time period?
I definitely started Professionally Brilliant during the pandemic. Also, for those that do not know, I was also, pregnant with my first child. So I was entering the, motherhood, parenthood life, which I realized I spent a lot of time talking to a baby and not adults. So I'm like, I have to find a way to get an outlet to, speak to people, to talk to people. And one cool thing that we did at my job while we were all working remotely, we would come together, once a month or every few weeks to kind of just meet with one coworker. So we'll just talk about anything besides work, just to kind of learn, more about them, which really built our relationships, during the pandemic. Because when I started my job, maybe 2-3 months later, we all went remote. So it was really hard to, connect with people during that. But I think my job was very intentional in making sure we're going to still make these connections. We're going to still have these social events, no matter if we're remote or not. So that was just very important. So it was a lot of transition during that time, but I still kind of was very intentional about still reaching out to folks and making connections there.
We could have a whole separate conversation about networking as a parent and leading with pictures of your kids and all of that as well, which is always fun to do. I'm interested, as we're sort of entering this next stage of whatever the reality of society is, whatever demic we want to call it, right? But the reintegration of in-person, while there's still the balance of those who either can't join in person for health reasons or fiscal reasons or other reasons. As our networking guru, as the superhero of networking we have here, if you were going to give advice to an organization that's thinking about how to still create meaningful community and connections, but operating in this environment, right, where some are in person and some are not, what do you think organizations should do to help make networking a little bit easier for their members?
I really think it's important just to have options. Connection is not a one size fit all thing. Just because you have members take a survey and the majority of say they want to meet in person does not mean everybody want to do that. So it's just important to, even if it's like little micro connections that you can make. Hey, we are on a discussion board. Let's just all get together and do something. Or like a micro volunteer opportunity. Hey, we have this awards. We're looking for a committee to put together to, judge these awards. I think it's very important to do that. And also, And, I've always been kind of like a young professional, cheerleader.
Yep.
Really, ask your young professionals, for some ideas around that. What's very interesting coming out of the pandemic is seeing this shift in leadership. So we're seeing that young professionals are, sitting in the C-suite now. They're sitting
Yeah.
on boards. They're making decisions, and I really love to see that. It's very exciting. And that's always what my work has been around, is just making sure that our voices are being amplified, and, we're highlighting our experience. So ask your young professionals is my advice.
I love the invitation mindset to that, right? It's don't make differentiated voices that perhaps weren't previously present have to
Mhm.
fight to get in, but like think intentionally, like whose voice would we be better because of? And like ask your young professionals, like invite, right, their perspective. I love that.
Absolutely.
Uh, as you think about what's next in the association landscape, if those that are young professionals, right? As you think about the advice you give, what do you think are primary places of leadership skill development that those that want to be leaders someday, that want to be rock stars someday? What are some key leadership skills that should be developed for the future?
You have to be adaptable. Things are changing rapidly. So it's always important to make sure that you're reading, you're staying ahead of the trends, you're learning about what's next. You're always staying educated, and being authentic. A lot of times, you know, and I think this just coming up in my career, I always thought I had to be a certain type of way to be a leader. And sometimes that made me, not shine my light the brightest or speak up when I had great ideas.
Yeah.
But it's really important to show up yourself, show up who you are, like do not change. You are brilliant, and you got to know that deep down inside. So I think those are the most important things, kind of, I would give advice to professionals coming up.
Well, I would agree with you. I think you are brilliant. I think you are inspirational. I'm wondering, you talked about how just a moment ago that there was some transition that had to happen between being able to be your authentic self. Was there a like an incident or like a moment that you realized that? Was that just something you developed over time? Like, how did you become more comfortable in your own self and your own voice to be able to utilize that for authenticity?
To be honest with you, representation matters. Early in my career, I didn't see a lot of professionals that look like me, especially, in the C-suite. And as I continue to go through my career and the years and years have gone by, I see more of that, which, makes me see what's possible. Okay, I could be there too. So I just think it's very important for diversity, equity, inclusion to always kind of be at the forefront of the strategy that associations are pushing forward. And not always look at the same places for talent, but really step outside of that, and look different places. So I'll give you an example. So
Yeah.
with my association right now, for those that don't know, we represent the tech sector. So we're a trade association. We represent all of the big tech companies. So recently we did an initiative with Morehouse College, which is a HBCU in Atlanta. And the challenge was that, the tech industry, the talent pipeline is not very diverse. So it was, our thing, we're going to change that. So we've got all our members together to actually create curriculum for Morehouse,
Mm.
that will help them build skills, knowledge, and then also give them jobs in the future so we can really diversify our industry. And I think like this issue comes up through all industries. And typically a lot of, organizations, companies or whatnot may not necessarily look at HBCUs for talent. They might go to the bigger schools. And I'm an HBCU grad. So that type of stuff is very important to me. And
Yeah.
I just really think that folks should kind of step out and look to see who's around for talent.
Yeah. I love the proactive and the demands intention. I love that. So let's talk about far in the future. I know our time's just about over. We're talking to Natasha decades in the future. What's the legacy you hope that all your efforts leave behind? What's the impact you want to make?
I want folks to be able to live in purpose, on purpose,
Mm.
and by doing that, becoming professionally brilliant. So just knowing your value, being able to use your voice to create change and, just reaching your full potential. So that's what I will leave as my legacy.
Love that. Well, first, thank you for being with us. This has been exactly the conversation I was hoping for, and I hope everyone listening in and tuning in, if you're not following or connected to Natasha, she has amazing things to say that are inspirational, a great place of learning and mentorship, no matter what your age is. Thanks, Natasha, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you everyone who's listening in. Thanks to Amy, who's been helping with all the chat and good conversation going on. And thanks to all of you walking the journey of celebrating our rock stars together and looking forward to our next conversation. Until then, Association Rock.